I guess I want to begin by just reiterating that if you have questions, it'd be great if you would type them into the box. I unfortunately have to go, so I'm going to be leaving after in about a half hour and may not be there to answer questions at the end. Though would be happy to follow up with people if something comes up down the line. I was working with Catherine Strunk and a variety of other collaborators to try and understand what are the staffing needs that different kinds of districts and schools have, and how are these related to the characteristics of the districts, including how much they are paying and the working conditions and such, and to try to understand the degree to which there are equity concerns and concerns about hiring in different subject areas. And I think I'm going to begin by mentioning something about research in other states. And I would say from research in other states, Washington and North Carolina and Massachusetts, there's pretty good evidence that there are teacher quality gaps that exist both within districts and between districts. And specifically in research in Washington, that those quality gaps explain what I think is a meaningful share of the differences in student outcome gaps, either on 8th grade test scores or high school course taking. About 20% of those outcome gaps. So I think we should care about the degree to which teachers are inequitably distributed across students. And I'll say that the findings are unaffected by the way that you measure teacher quality or the way that you measure student disadvantage. Kind of no matter how you cut the data, you find that there are these gaps. Now, why do I begin by talking about other states? I begin by talking about other states because we hope to do comparable research in California, and we couldn't. And we couldn't because of some of the data limitations that Susanna mentioned at the outset. So I think that it is worth raising that up as an important issue, because I just really believe that empirical evidence and giving somebody something concrete to latch onto helps to change policy-making discussions. So I do think that the data and the ability to understand equity with California's data is an important issue. But what we could do is we could use data from EdJoin, which is a company that helps California, most districts in California with job postings. We could see the degree to which different kinds of districts had different job postings at different times of the year. And I would say that the data that we got from EdJoin on job postings does raise some flags about equity. And in particular, what we see when we cut the districts by their poverty level is that the lowest poverty districts are much more likely to have their postings very early and much less likely to have late postings as defined by postings for jobs that occur after the end of August. And again, drawing from other research, there's a pretty good correlation between the timing of postings and when teachers are hired and quality. So in the research that Catherine and I did, there's not a kind of a direct link to teacher quality, but there's this indirect link based on how long we see postings sort of go into the school year, and knowing what that likely means for students and the kind of instruction that they're receiving at the beginning of the year and the kind of people that would tend to be hired late, that is a real concern. I will just close by saying that we see these gaps between low poverty and high poverty districts. Again, with high poverty districts much more likely to have later postings and postings that drift into the year. And we also see some pretty major gaps for rural districts, where it looked like rural districts were also having more difficulty with staffing. So I'll close with that and just see if there are I'm looking at the text box to see if there are any questions related to those findings.